We put this panel together because there's, number one, the construction category is one of the fastest growing categories in the toy industry. For the last 5 years, it's grown double digits. And in fact, companies like Lego, who introduced Lego Friends a couple years ago, really kind of helped to start to pave the way for these new entrepreneurs to come in to the category because they did a lot of research. And in fact, the Lego Friends brand was one of their most successful new launches of product in their entire history of the company. They could not keep it on shelf. They couldn't keep it in the stores. And they were constantly out of stock of it. So it definitely shows that it's a category that has reached a massive amount of attention and that people want to get involved in this. So we have 3 entrepreneurs up here on the stage with us, and I'm going to give a brief introduction to them, and then each of them is going to have about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to talk about their company, and then we have a series of questions that we're going to ask them, and when we're finished with those, we'll open it up to the crowd if you have additional questions for them to ask. So, we have Lori Peterson, who is the founder and CEO of Build and Imagine. We also have Alice Brooks, who's co-founder of Ruminate, and her other founding partner is here in the audience somewhere, Bettina, here in the front. And then we have Deborah Sterling from GoldieBlox. So all of them decided that it was time, they came to a critical point in their life where they said, you know, it's time for me to take a stand. It's time for me to do something different because I want the next generation of girls to have different opportunities and a different perspective in the landscape when they go to college than what I had. And so I'm going to let each of you tell them their introductory story, and then we're going to go into a little bit more depth about, you know, where they started, what they're doing, what's their future, what were some of their, you know, aha moments, that type of thing to go through. So, Lori, you can either use this or you can use this.
Good afternoon. So I'm Lori Peterson. I'm an award-winning toy designer and I'm the founder of Build and Imagine. And this is a brand new toy company. We're creating constructible playsets to get girls and boys building. So they're these wooden playsets. They're magnetic and they're illustrated and you can combine them however you like. So I started Build and Imagine because what we play with matters. Toys help to shape our view of the world and develop important skills. So construction toys like Build and Imagine Story Walls develop skills like spatial reasoning, problem solving. And these are all skills that are foundational to STEM careers, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And these are careers in which women have been underrepresented. So these toys are giving them literally the building blocks to begin these careers. So the design principle we use at Build and Imagine to get girls excited about construction is that building should facilitate imaginative play. So each Build and Imagine story wall panel is magnetic and you combine them however you like. And then the illustrations on the wall, they all combine to create an illustrated scene that entices the child's imagination. So all the little details in the illustration give you jumping off points for your imaginative play. So when I tested the product with a lot of little girls, and it's not on the market yet, so we're still in development, I would ask, you know, the girls if they liked the product and how it compared to other construction toys they used. And this is probably my favorite quote that came from a 7-year-old girl. And she said, yeah, this is better than any other building toy I've played with before. And I said, okay, well, why is it better? And she said, well, because it has pictures, and I like pictures better than plain things. And I think that really goes to the secret sauce of what makes Build and Imagine Story Walls special. The detailed illustrations really are enticing the girls' imaginations. So we're launching with 3 playsets for holiday this year. They all work together in a coastal theme, so you can build out a little coastal town. You'll eventually be able to build out a whole Build and Imagine world. So we have a Surfside Cafe, Malia's Beach House, and the Marine Rescue Center. Thank you.
You can either stand up or you can sit and talk about your company. So now we're going to introduce Alice from Ruminate.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice. I'm the co-creator of Ruminate. We created it with my co-founder Bettina over here. And Ruminate is a hands-on wired building set designed for girls ages 6 and up. And our emphasis is on open-ended, imaginative play, so they can build anything they can imagine. And the reason that we got started is, well, Bettina and I are both engineers. She's an electrical engineer and I'm a mechanical engineer. And we were wondering why our other female friends didn't choose to be engineers like us. And we realized that we had something in common, and that was that things that we played with when we were younger had really inspired us and gotten us to love engineering. So when I was 8 years old, I asked my dad if Santa Claus could bring me a Barbie for Christmas, because I really loved Barbies. And instead I got my own saw. So, and he left me alone to play with it too. So I would make my own dolls, I made some dinosaurs and doll houses. And it was figuring those things out on my own, you know, how to cut the wood, how to nail it together into those shapes and into something I'd want to play with. That's what really started my love of building and making and being an engineer. And I think that's why I chose mechanical engineering when I got to MIT 10 years later. And then also did a master's too. So we saw this experience of all this hands-on, you know, open-ended creativity that we'd experienced when we were younger. And we wanted to give that experience to girls today. So that's why we designed Ruminate. And the next slide. So it comes with these wall panels for the structure. You can put that into any configuration that you want. And then there's also these modular furniture building pieces. So you can make things from couches to stairs to things that are structural like beams. And then what really makes it come alive is we have circuits in there. So we have motors and lights. And with the motors, you can do things like a big spinning windmill, or you can tie a piece of string to it and all of a sudden it's an elevator. Or you can make a carousel. We've had a lot of girls making amusement parks. So the really exciting part for us is because it's so open-ended, all these girls are making things that we never would have imagined doing. So even though we designed the toy, they're making things we never would have dreamed of. So there's the Golden Gate Bridge down in the corner, and then up in the middle, this girl made a car wash. She took our motor and she made brushes out of felt and attached them to the motor. And yeah, it's so exciting because this is the moment that we see them getting excited about making, and that's what gets us inspired too.
And perhaps one of the companies that's probably better known at this point is GoldieBlox. And GoldieBlox, I'm going to brag on her a little bit. She's probably not going to brag on herself, but she just won 2 TOTY Awards, so Toy of the Year Awards for this year at the event on Saturday night. One was for Educational Toy, and one was the People's Choice Award. So, she also, sorry if all of you couldn't hear me, she also was at ChiTag, which was in November in Chicago. It's a Chicago Toy and Game Fair. She won as Inventor of the Year this year, and she also got her commercial on the Super Bowl, and they paid the $4.5 million. She was in a competition, and she won, and her competition, so her commercial aired on the Super Bowl, and she didn't have to pay that $4.5 million. So a lot of great
Hi everybody, my name is Debbie Sterling and I'm the founder and CEO of GoldieBlox. I studied, kind of similar to Alice and Bettina, I was also an engineer from Stanford, and there were very few women in the program. And, but unlike them, I actually didn't grow up playing with saws and construction toys. I was a pink aisle princess girl, and I fell into engineering almost by accident. I wasn't interested in it ever. I didn't even know what it was until my math teacher my senior year of high school suggested I major in it, and I was scratching my head wondering why she thought I would want to be a train driver. And then I went off to Stanford and I took my first mechanical engineering class, and I fell in love with it. We were building contraptions and making things and problem solving and working in groups and being creative, and I absolutely loved it, and I declared it as my major. And I just feel like there are so many girls like me who never would have considered it, or parents like my mom who said ew when I told her that I was going to do engineering. So after I graduated, I had a very circuitous career path, but one day I had a conversation with a friend who told me she grew up playing with her older brother's Legos and Lincoln Logs and Erector sets, and they were the hand-me-down toys, and those were her brother's toys, but she played with them, and they sparked her love of engineering. And we lamented the fact that those were the boys' toys, and that day forward I became obsessed with making these topics appealing to girls, and I've spent the last couple years now really researching how to get girls interested, and we'll talk more about that today, I'm sure, but the real insight for Goldie Blocks is that girls love stories and they want a reason to build. So it's not just building for the sake of building, it's building things that solve problems and help your friends. And having characters that they fall in love with and care about. And through that, we're able to talk about engineering in a different way and show girls that it does change the world and it helps people. And I know that that is going to spark their interest and get them excited about those topics and build their confidence.
Great. Now, all of these women have a similar mission, and that is to get girls interested in things that happen when you play with engineering and you play with circuitry and you ask yourself those what-if questions. Because once the girls started building with some of their products, then they would, say, well, what if we did this? And could we do that? And some of the things that came up when the girls were in the research testing was amazing to these young entrepreneurs. And by the way, they're all based in San Francisco as well. So there's, some similarities, but I think that's where then some of the differences come in. And so when I interviewed each of them separately, we were looking at what were their points of difference and what were the different aha moments that they had that led them to be inspired to take this path beyond where they were before, and that this became their mission to start a company to really do this. So one of the questions was, and we'll start, how about we start with you, Alice, on this one. What inspired you to begin this disruption, and what did it take for you to get it accomplished?
Yeah, I think the thing that really inspired us was seeing that things we had played with when we were younger that weren't necessarily a traditional girl's toy. Like, I don't think many of you have given an 8-year-old a saw, and I wouldn't recommend it because it's not exactly safe. But seeing what we played with, we wanted to make that same experience really available. And we looked out there, we looked in the toy aisle, and we didn't see anything that was really letting girls go and build and create their own story that they could be proud of. That's what we saw that was missing out there, and that's why we started Ruminate. And I guess the challenge is in getting there. We did a Kickstarter. I think that might be something similar to all of us. Yeah. So none of us had money, so we did Kickstarters and got our first customers and got going with that.
And what's interesting is that all of them started on Kickstarter, and the majority of them, within 5 days or so, had already made their goal. And by the time the month was over, they far exceeded the goal that they had originally expected to make, which once again showed that there's crowdsourcing for the crowdfunding behind these types of ideas and what's making them work. So Debbie, why don't you take the same question then? I'll just repeat it. What inspired you to begin the disruption, and what did it take for you to get it accomplished?
Yeah, so it was definitely that conversation about construction toys or boys' toys that got me started, and I literally became obsessed with it, and I felt like it was what I was born to do, kind of epiphany moment. And I went to the toy store the next day to get a lay of the land, and I hadn't been to a toy store since I was probably 8 years old, because I don't have kids yet. And seeing that kind of pink aisle and blue aisle, I was really shocked that it felt like, and I know that toys have a lot of nostalgia about them, but it felt like, in particular, the toys that were marketed to girls were really similar and all sort of the same kind of stereotypical princess, beauty queen, pop star, decorate, ironing boards. And I don't want to, we definitely have a motto of disrupting the pink aisle, and I don't want to talk badly about any of those things, but I think that it is a huge problem that that's all there is. Because what ends up happening is the parents say, oh, my daughter loves it, I can't help it, she's a princess. It's like, well, of course she's a princess. You can't walk into a toy store and not have that be like, she's surrounded by it. So I really felt passionately about providing more options for girls, and whether you're a princess or a tomboy, something that would spark their interest. So that's what I've been really trying to do. And I spent months doing research and testing prototypes with kids, which is why the product has come such a long way. We got a lot of feedback and went into a lot of people's living rooms, and still do that every week. And one thing I know for sure is that girls will be interested. Like, they do like building and making things and creating. They love it. So if they're going to make arts and crafts, and why wouldn't they also make machines? It's the same thing.
Great. Okay, and Laura, your perspective.
Sure. So in my last job, I was doing marketing for a tech toy startup and becoming more and more involved with the San Francisco tech-based startup scene, especially the hardware scene. And in the hardware scene, especially, women are really underrepresented. And in fact, the first time I met Debbie was at a meetup for women in the tech scene and how to get ahead. And I was getting, I guess, more and more frustrated with what I was seeing in the industry. And meanwhile, I was watching the initial boom of the girls' construction toy category and the success of Lego Friends, and becoming really inspired by that and thinking that I had a unique point of view that I think could contribute to it. I think Lego Friends has been amazing in paving the way for us, and definitely showing that there's demand. But with thinking about it, I didn't want to leave the future of building toys to girls up to a company that has made its management team with 18 men and has a history of, highly masculine combat themes in their toys. And so I knew it was something I really cared about and wanted to be part of the solution. And you were inspiring to me as well. And I was at the MoMA with my daughter. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter. And I was watching her play. They have a family section. And I was watching them play with these abstract magnetic building shapes. And they were building these really cool towers, really, really cool structures. It was about 4 girls working together. And they would build this cool tower, look very, very proud, and then walk away. And that was my aha moment. The moment I thought, well, what a missed opportunity for engagement, because if what they build actually looked more like something, then they would want to play in it, and they would want to keep rebuilding and experiment and doing the design. So instead of having a 3-minute building session, which is what I saw those girls have with the abstract shapes, by having these illustrations in the scene and making it a more real scene, that they're creating a scene that gets their imagination going. I have play sessions that are more up to 45 minutes and longer, even with 3-year-olds. So that was, I guess, that was the moment, and that's what set me on this path. And with every step I take, I'm still a very new company, but with every step I take, it just becomes more and more something that I have to do very well. So hopefully this is a good year for us as we launch our product.
Now, how many people in the audience are entrepreneurs themselves? Okay, so we have quite a big inventing group or entrepreneur group. How many are retailers here? Okay, a few retailers. What other groups of people do we have in the audience? Other manufacturers that want to learn more about this business? Okay, so a lot of inventors and entrepreneurs here. So obviously they found their passion, they figured out what it was that they wanted to do, but then they obviously faced challenges in the marketplace. So Lori, we'll have you start with the challenges and then just go back down the aisle. Tell us what challenges you faced once you found your mission. And we'll talk in sound bites so we can get through all the questions and maybe get some questions.
Sure, I think my challenges, luckily it's already been proven that there's demand in this category, so I didn't have the challenge of proving that point. But I do have a lot of entrepreneurial challenges, like how do I get this product to market? How am I going to manufacture it? So things like that are challenging, and I'm still working through those challenges.
Okay. I think our biggest challenge was when we were just getting started. We knew that we wanted to create this building toy for girls and to engage them in that way. But finding that play experience where they'd be playing for hours, and you mentioned this, 45 minutes in a play session is a really big deal, getting that much engagement. So when we were testing out our prototypes, if they played it for a few minutes and then kind of wandered away, we knew that wasn't the moment, we hadn't captured it. So really just figuring out how to engage them in a way that they were coming up with ideas and they were getting excited about it, and that they would sit there for an hour or 2 hours at a time. And the moment that we knew that we had something actually was the first real session where we were testing the original Ruminate prototypes, where these girls were playing with it and their parents came to pick them up And they were saying, no mom, I'm not done yet, I have to stay. And they turned to us and asked for more circuits and more pieces. That was our biggest challenge. And once we got to that point, that's when we knew we could just keep going straight from there.
We have so many challenges, so I don't know what the biggest one is, but you know, I think that we exploded onto the marketplace and we've been really hustling and doing whatever we can, viral videos, entering every contest, and you know, winning a bunch of them, and now a lot of people have heard about GoldieBlox. The mission is bringing people to tears. They're so excited about it. We're an 18-month-old company, and people are comparing us to Lego. And that's a huge challenge for anybody entering into the construction toy category, to be compared to a brand that is incredible and has been over 100 years old. And we're working on it, but it is a huge challenge to have such high expectations and be such a young company.
Well, and I think along with the challenges that come up, and there, you know, everyone as an entrepreneur faces challenges, and especially as a new company, and you know, women entering the business, there's a whole separate set of challenges there. But then there's also those moments when the light bulb goes off, and you're like, wow, this is what I was meant to do. So let's share some of those aha moments that you had. So Alice, let's start with you on this one.
Okay, so one of my favorite moments was, we ask our customers to send in pictures of things they've made. And right after we shipped out our Kickstarter rewards, Christmas 2012, we started the first batch of pictures that we got back. That was this amazing moment because they were making things that we hadn't thought of. And in the first batch, there was this girl, and she'd made what she called her doggy hotel. And she'd used the pieces that were in the box, you know. She'd made, cut out a little pool that went on the ground, and she made a balcony for her dogs. And then she'd used the motor that was in our kit, and she put a piece of pink felt on there so that when it spins, it actually looks like a cotton candy maker, which just blew our minds because we hadn't even thought about how our tools would translate into that world. And seeing this 8-year-old that was making something we wouldn't have thought of with our tools, that was a really exciting moment for us.
Okay, and Lori, or Debbie, you can go next.
Well, I remember when I had my aha moment about the combination of reading and building, and it happened after doing months of reading books about the female brain and the male brain and interviewing. Like, I literally went to Harvard and interviewed their top neuroscientists on children's play patterns and interviewed elementary school teachers and parents. So I did tons and tons of research trying to understand what the gender differences are and understand what does appeal to girls, so I incorporate it into the product design. And there were a lot of things that I learned, but it hadn't all bubbled up to the obvious solution until I was sitting in the living room at my friend Ian's house. He has 3 daughters, and there was a pile of construction toys on one side of the room, and they were playing a few minutes and got bored. And then, so I asked them what their favorite toy was, and they said, it's a book. And they ran upstairs and brought back down a book. And it's a Disney book. It's the one of like Disney fairy tales, and it's an interactive book, and it has letters tucked into it that you can read. And one of the characters in the book was Goldilocks. And we're sitting there reading Goldilocks' story, and we've got the book in my hand, and I'm looking over at the construction toys on the other side of the room, and then the hundreds of research papers that I'd read about girls' strong verbal skills and loving stories. It all really came together. It was definitely an aha moment.
Well, also the name,
And then GoldieBlox.
Right, you know,
Yeah.
because suddenly you're like, wait a sec, let's take an iconic name and turn it into something that people will immediately get it.
Yeah, and even the name GoldieBlox didn't happen that day. It happened a few weeks later. But I think it all, if you really do your homework and spend time, as much time as you can with kids, then you know it'll come.
Okay, and Lori? She's got the next one.
So I already spoke of my product aha moment watching the girls play with abstract shapes, so I'll speak maybe to my aha moment that I felt like, all right, I'm on the right path for me personally as an entrepreneur. This is the 6th startup I've been a part of. It's my first time as a founder. And I think in all past situations, I wasn't necessarily being genuine to myself and my interests, and you know, doing the right thing for the company and for the product, and not always matching what my personal mission was. And I think finally starting a company that is so in line with my mission, my aha moment was in my first interview. during my Kickstarter campaign, I got this nice 3-page spread in the San Francisco Chronicle, and my aha moment was during the interview, describing to the journalist that for the first time in my career, I can be authentically me, and it's good for business. In the past, being authentically me was never the right thing for the business. So I can talk about, how I'm a feminist and how I'm a mother. My God, at my last company, I hid the fact that I was a mother for the first 6 months. And that's what I can lead with now, and it makes me better at my job. And so it just makes me feel really good.
Great, so it's resonating with you. Now each of you feel that you found your spot. This is what you're meant to do. This is what you're... So what are your next steps for each of you? So we'll start with Lori again. So what are your next steps from today for, say, the next 6 months or so? Where are you going?
Sure, so we're here at Toy Fair debuting our product line for the first time to the industry. And so we're looking to be in store by September. So we're looking to be in a lot of specialty toy and gift stores. The next few months, the big challenge is actually producing the units. So yeah, figuring out the whole manufacturing bit that is highly intimidating, and getting it into store. And then if we have a great holiday, then next year we're going to be looking to expand out the different themes. We're going to be doing both familiar themes like schools and as well as aspirational STEM themes. So we're looking at things like a natural history museum and a treetop laboratory and stuff like that.
Awesome. Okay, Alice?
There's 2 things that we're really focusing on the next 6 months. One is just getting our we have new products that are getting manufactured right now. You can check them out at our booth, 5757. And so because our customers have been wanting more things to play with and more things to build, we've been created some new pieces and some new circuits. And the other thing is I know we've been talking a little bit about getting in front of kids and testing. Another thing that we've been having a lot of fun doing actually is just going out into schools and doing workshops with the kids. So that's something that we've been doing a lot of, and springtime is a good time for it because school's in session right now, so that's another.
We're heavily focused, trying to be as laser focused as possible on product and intellectual property development. Who is Goldie? Who are her friends? What is her world like? What kind of adventures do they go on? And we're designing new pieces, better pieces, and really looking into combining kind of craft with construction and really compelling stories that really resonate with the girls. So we have 3 products out now. We just launched one called Billy Bucks in the Dunk Tank. It's really fun. You should come visit our booth, 3131, if you want to see that. And then we will have 3 more products on the shelves by this Christmas. So we're really busy.
Great. And then Lori, where are you located at the fair?
I forget. Hold on.
Okay. She's here too. She's in the incubator.
Yeah, we're in the Launchpad section for emerging toy companies, and it is 4869. So we're downstairs.
Okay, so what's interesting is not only are they finding their way and they're saying, I want to do this and I want to, be an entrepreneur and make this happen for girls and have a mission statement, but there's a bigger societal trend in general, which is that whole maker movement trend. And actually I'd say probably about 3 years ago when the first Maker Fair started in San Francisco and MakerBot was doing, their individual fairs of what was happening. There are now over 100 Maker Fairs just in the USA in the course of a year. And there's also Maker Fairs in other countries, and it's a big, it's not just about boys and girls, it's not just about robotics, it's about getting people involved in saying, hey, what if I did this? Could I do that? Let's have a little bit fun in life. Let's make some things that do something just to be silly, or do things, that actually have a purpose. Or, that you add a circuit to something and maybe it'll water your plants or it'll, do something. And I think that's very inspiring to me also to see all the different ways that people are, getting inspired. 3D printing is coming out. The CES show actually had a whole zone for 3D printers and 3D printing this year. And the interesting thing is that with 3D printing, they're printing different materials now. You can use a 3D printer with metal to make jewelry. You can use it with sugar to make condiments for a fair or, in your logo of your company or whatever. So there's all different ways to be involved in this movement. Now, are there anyone who has questions for any of these women? Anyone have any questions? Yes? And I don't know if they're taking a mic around, so Bettina, would you like to take a mic to the people who have questions? Sure. I'm going to volunteer you. And state your name and what you do as well, so we know the kind of a basis for your question.
I'm from England. My name is Francis, and I have a company that specializes in construction and engineering and design.
Awesome.
Education. I'm just interested, what keyword would you use so people, if they search, what keyword would they come under? Because I notice even in this fair, you're not all in the same location. So if you had to do a Google search, what keyword would you?
A booth search for, a Google
Google
search. Okay.
Like, would you use construction? Would you use storytelling?
I did a little bit of research on that. I looked up how much traffic construction toys were getting versus building sets, and building sets gets more. So we, when we're talking to industry folks, we tend to say construction toys, but for consumer facing, I think building sets, and I think you have a different.
Yeah, we actually really wanted to be in tech toys section, even though we don't have electronics in our toys yet. That's something we have on the horizon, and I also, Goldilocks is talked about as a tech toy just because it's a Silicon Valley startup and it talks about technology and engineering in the narrative. So I chose to be in tech toys because I think it's definitely the up and coming section of Toy Fair, and I really wanted to be there.
Okay, and Alice?
Yeah, I think if I was looking for words to describe it, I would go for building, open-ended, dollhouse.
Okay. Bettina, how about the gentleman right in the back there? Yep. Yep.
Hi, my name is Jeremy, and I'm working on an educational toy startup. Two questions. First of all, what made each of your Kickstarter campaigns successful? And second, you've all mentioned the issues of manufacturing. Coming out of your Kickstarter campaign, did you raise enough, and what's been your biggest obstacle in manufacturing?
Okay, who wants to start?
Okay, the biggest advice I can give on Kickstarter campaign success is you can't just put up a video, you have to have like a 6-week plan. You have to start 6 weeks early and come up with your launch plan for how you're going to get the word out to as many people as possible. It depends how much you want to raise, but if you have a really ambitious one, you need to get on the homepage of Kickstarter, and the way that you do that is you need to reach at least 25% of your goal within the first few days, and it can't just come from like one or two, you can't like game it and have it come from one or two people, so you have to get out to as many people as possible. And if you have incoming press links, like if press is writing about your project, then that helps you get on the homepage. And the way to get it out, what I did is I got as many of my friends as possible to be involved in helping me strategize how I was going to get it out. So then they all felt like they didn't feel like they were very invested and involved in it. So then they were more likely to share it with all of their friends, so that really helped. I also got exclusives with The Atlantic and TechCrunch, who wrote about the Kickstarter project on the day that it launched. And then the third thing that I did was I put Tim Schafer, who's a Kickstarter celebrity, in the video playing with his daughter, and he shared it with his 90,000 Kickstarter backers. So that helped. So think about ways like that to kind of game it, would be my answer to question number one. And then, what was number two?
Did you raise enough, and
Oh.
get into manufacturing?
Shipping will kill you. So you need to like really, and it was hard because we wanted to test our price point. We wanted to see if people liked that price point, and so we didn't add nearly enough for shipping. I mean, it was fine, but I would take whatever you're thinking of for shipping, and do not ship internationally.
At least from your
tempting as that would be, don't do it.
Well, what's interesting there is that, I mean, it sounds like a lot of marketing went into this, marketing and strategy. So, for an engineer, I mean, you obviously had a lot of marketing sense in there too to make that happen. So, Alice, what about you?
Yeah, I wanted to echo the part about getting your friends to help you with it, and really just getting as many people that you've encountered while you've been working on it to have them on this list that's going to push it out for you as soon as it gets out there. And another thing that we did was we started our Kickstarter at the same time that the Bay Area Maker Faire was going on. So we had physical people walking by our prototypes and seeing them and then looking at our Kickstarter page. And these people were all primed for it. They were all excited about making and do it yourself and all of that. So that was a really great tool for us.
Yeah, so get in front of your target audience and get in front of people who will champion you and become a team player with you and want to be invested in your success.
Yeah, and even though it's online, physically too.
Sir, can I add one more thing? Sorry, I just thought of this. This is the best advice that I can give about Kickstarter. You should launch it in November, because that's when people are thinking about toys and they don't care about getting it until they want to get it by next Christmas. So that, if I would have done anything differently, I would have launched it in November instead of September.
Okay, awesome. All right, some other questions I saw. There were some questions. Okay, the lady in the purple shirt.
Hi, my name is Hannah Chung. I have a robotics toy company for kids with chronic illnesses.
What's it called again?
It's called Sproutel.
Okay.
I have a question for Deborah. I've been following, I was actually one of the early Kickstarter backer for your product, and actually it was my neighbor. She loved GoldieBlox. I thought the viral campaign that you've done recently was really amazing and really well executed. And I was wondering, what was the secret sauce to make them really good? And also, did you kind of, it seemed like you engaged families to make this really effective. Can you give us a couple of tips on building a strong brand and making that viral really happen for your products?
Sure, thank you. For those of you who don't know about it, last Christmas we launched a viral video that was a Rube Goldberg machine made out of toys, and it got about 10 million views in a week, and it was crazy. And the idea for the video, actually my husband Bo, who works with me at GoldieBlox now, before that he started a viral video production and distribution company, and he built that business for 5 years. But then he became so passionate about GoldieBlox, he came and joined me, and for 5 years he had to figure out how to make things go viral, and I helped him a lot, and we've learned a lot about kind of viral video. And I think that there's oh man, I wish that he was here, because there actually are really good tips for it. One, you have to do things that are pretty risky and outrageous, and that can definitely bite you in the ass sometimes. But it has to be really risky. It has to. You have to watch it and be like, would everyone share this? Like, is it shareable? And music is really, really powerful. People love, music videos are really popular on YouTube. People love songs, and kids love songs and memorizing the words and singing it along. I think the best thing about our video was that it was kids and parents loved it. Like, kids wanted to watch it over and over and over again, and then they wanted to play with the toys that were in the video. So the way it came about, yeah, it was just that my husband and I both have been working on viral stuff for a long time, so it was obvious to us that that's what we would do, because we don't know how to do other kinds of marketing.
Okay, well that's a great tip. Okay, some other questions. There's a lady in the front row here.
Hi, my name is Julie, and I'm a researcher on children's interfaces. Quick question, we talked about Lego Friends earlier and how a great commercial success was, and maybe even a surprising one for a lot of people. But there was also kind of a backlash in some of the media about, here you take Lego, and instead of it being a toy for everybody, you have to put pink on it in order for girls to play with it. And I think that that's been an issue when you're looking at girls and gender and toys throughout the years. Like, how do you add that element without going to the stereotypical side? And I'm just wondering, what your thoughts about that solution or other solutions in similar situations.
Do any of you want to feel that? Or?
I can talk about it a little bit. So this was something that we were hyper aware of from right when we started. We didn't want to pander to girls, so we didn't want to make it bright pink. We didn't want you to look at it and say, "Oh, that's girly. That's just what it is." So what we had to do was think about ways that we could look at the way girls were playing and make it appeal to them. And we tried a lot of things that didn't work, honestly. Sometimes the hardest thing is having a kid look at you and say, this is boring. But what we came to with Ruminate, I mean, originally what you can start with is by building a dollhouse. And so many girls have dollhouses already in their homes. It's just that a lot of them are really static. And our thing that we came to it with was, well, what if we let them design all the details, build the whole thing, and electrify it? And that's how we brought together how girls were playing and these new play patterns that we wanted them to bring into it.
And also just one question, or an answer that if Lego was here, they would say, is that, you know, Lego didn't necessarily make it pink to just get to the girls. I mean, they did like 2 or 3 years worth of deep research to say, what is it about girls playing with construction that will stick with them? And it was about the play pattern. It was the build it and then play with it. Whereas a lot of boys build and destroy, crash and bash play pattern. But girls like to build and display, build and play, build and create communities. And then the language skills come up, both for girls and for boys, when they're playing with construction toys too, which is a very interesting sideline. Okay.
With Goldilocks, what we're trying to do is when we're developing the stories, we're actively trying to have new stories that don't rely on the gender stereotypes. So we're creating Goldie and her friends and what her personality is, and she's not the girly girl, but she has femininity to her, and she has a girly girl friend, and then she has the shy friend, and we're creating these characters based on real girls that we've met, because girls have a lot of complexity to their personalities, and we're reflecting that in the characters, and then we're setting them on adventures where things that girls are interested in that aren't all the stereotypes. So yes, maybe girls like playing house or dress up, but they also like going to a carnival or climbing a tree or playing in a tree house. So I think that's what we're trying to do is really write stories that are going to be cool and fun for girls that aren't just the same stories that you've seen over and over again.
Okay, and Lauren. Yes.
So I consider it to be part of my job to be expanding the definition of toys for girls. And there has been a little bit of reaction at Toy Fair with some of my play sets, like my Marine Rescue Center, which has a lot of blue because it's nautical themed, that it looks like a boy set. But more I'm hearing, oh, it's so refreshing that you've chosen colors that aren't stereotypical. And so I think there's a need for that. I mean, there's already a zillion pink dollhouses, so when I created my dollhouse, why does there need to be another pink one? There's already, if girls want pink princessy plastic stuff, they have a lot of choices. So as an entrepreneur, you have to pick something that you can do differently and do it really well. So that's how we're doing it, is expanding through different colors, different themes. Also, each of our play sets we're launching with girls. We call them the STEM girls. So their names spell out the word STEM. So Skylar, Thea, Emily, and Malia. And each of them have interests that align with those. So over time, we're going to be expanding that. So in doing character mapping of what their interests are, these are strong, smart girls. And that's going to inform our themes moving forward so that we don't fall into the traps of the next set being the beauty salon.
And I want to thank all the panelists for being here today, taking time out of their booths to come and give us some of this advice and answer our questions. Our time is up, but I have everyone's email addresses up there, so if you want to speak to one particular person, or afterwards, you can take it outside the room and meet with someone, because there's another session kind of right after this. I think we're breaking now for a coffee break or okay? So we're going to take a quick picture, and then they'll be ready to answer questions. And you guys want to just mention your booth numbers again?
5757
3131
4869 in the launch pad. I have cards here if you want to pick one up at Husky.